Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm working on this Generac GP8000e. This one did not cost me a whole lot of money. It was only $75, and for good reason. I am told the engine is bad and most likely the power head is good. So my hope is to harvest that power head and put it on another generator that is not making power. Before I do that though, I want to make sure that the engine is in fact bad. You know, I have pulled it over and the engine's not stuck, and I think I actually hear the piston going up and down. But even if this engine comes back, this has a lot of issues. I guess one of them being the starter recoil does not retract very well. The feet are just some square tube steel. We have some aftermarket wheels here. The fuel solenoid is disconnected, and of course the battery is stone cold dead. Our meter does not work, and the more serious issues are up here with the tank. We have a broken rollover valve, a broken line for the tank vent. The gauge is unreadable and most likely is leaking, and the tank is one of the worst I've seen. If we take a look in here, you can get a glimpse of what lurks beneath. And that is not the bottom of the tank. That is actually the fuel. Let me just move it around a little. So yeah, not good. I would not even call that fuel. It does not smell like it at all. It actually smells like latex paint. Anyway, I say we get this up on the lift. I want to get the tank out of the way. We'll dig into that engine. I'm thinking valves, so we'll start there and just see how far we get. Well, first off, let's do a compression test, see if we have any compression at all. And this is not the right plug. It should be, I think, a 14 millimeter, and it looks quite a bit smaller. Yeah, the 5/8 fits, and it should not. So the wrong plug is in there, and it was really loose. It's a brand new plug, NGK BK-R5E. Definitely the wrong plug. I've never seen one of these in a generator before. So what do you think the compression's going to be? Personally, I think it's going to be 0. I don't feel any compression at all. So let's pull it over, see what we get. Yeah, that's a 0. So definitely no compression. I mean, someone was clearly doing something with this, because this is not correct. The spark plug was not correct. And even the carburetor is not correct. This choke mechanism, it is for an auto choke that runs on engine vacuum, which interestingly looks like the fuel tank was hooked up to engine vacuum. So yeah, it would not have run like that. This should have gone to a servo connected to the choke. And this running to the tank, it's essentially vacuum leak, if anything. I mean, the tank should be sealed, so if anything, it's going to create negative pressure in the tank and prevent fuel from going down to that carburetor. So yeah, whoever was working on this, it may have been their first time. These bolts, they're very undersized and they tend to break, so go easy. I'm going to start on medium and hopefully they come out. That one wasn't bad. Trying to save the gasket, and I would say I failed. So both valves are tight, no clearance. Both push rods are in place. So let's rotate the engine until one of the valves is closed, and we'll check the clearance on the other side. So the intake valve is open. That means we can check the clearance on the exhaust. And I can tell you right now, there's no clearance on the exhaust. I should be able to wiggle this a little bit and hear it clicking, and that is not the case. So the exhaust valve, all the clearance is gone, and that valve is hanging open. So let's crack this nut loose. We'll set it to 8 thousandths, and then rotate the engine over and do the same on the intake. Start by turning this center screw out. And we have a tiny bit of clearance. I would say it's not 8 thousandths, so we'll do another quarter turn. We'll check with the 8 thousandths feeler gauge, and it fits actually with a little bit of drag, so we're almost there already. And now that's a lot of drag. So let's tighten that one down. And double check it after tightening it, because it goes off a little bit. In this case, we're good. Let's check the intake. Intake does have clearance, and I could actually feel compression when turning the engine over. So we'll double check it in a minute to see how the compression is. So 6 thousandths fits. Let's try a 7. The 7 doesn't really fit. So we're right there. It's between 6 thousandths and 7 thousandths of an inch. So the intake, I would say, is fine. That does not need to be adjusted. Anyway, I'm going to get the valve cover back on. We do need a new valve cover gasket, but we'll worry about that later. For now, we'll just bolt it back on and double check that compression. So let's try this again. We had 0 PSI last time. I'm hoping for 60. Anywhere in the 60 range, I'd say plus or minus about 10 PSI should be fine. and we're at 50 psi. So that is a good sign. I would say the engine, it's now capable of running, assuming we have fuel and spark, which is doubtful. This ignition coil is hacked together. The wrong carburetor is on there. We have the wrong spark plug. And the starter recoil has issues. So let's take care of those things, and then we'll try to start it. I need to get the airbox off and the carb loosened up so I can get the blower housing off to take a look at that ignition coil. This is the missing bracket for the auto choke. It just connects onto the carb like this. And when the engine pulls vacuum on the servo, it opens the choke right up. Anyway, I was going to set this aside and use it when putting this back together. And then I noticed we're missing a check valve. Usually it's mounted right here, and the engine vacuum runs through it and then to the servo. So I don't have that check valve, and I checked online on the parts diagram for this machine to see what is supposed to be on here. And the carb that's supposed to be on here just has a lever. It's not supposed to be the auto choke. I do have plenty of those carbs. So I'm actually just going to pull this one off and put the correct one on. And I'll have to swap that insulator as well. I mean, technically I could use this one, but I'd have to plug that vacuum leak. That was loose. And we're missing a bolt down below. So if there was any question if someone was in here, which there's not, I'd say that missing bolt would have been a dead giveaway. Yeah, and this is what I was afraid of. Somebody twisted together a cable here. And yeah, potentially it does work, but I have a bunch of these in a bin that are not like that. So let's get this one off. So we'll just get this wire plugged in. This is the kill wire. That's what shuts the engine down. Just going to use a business card to set the gap. It should be about 0.010 of an inch. I'm going to rotate the flywheel so that the magnet is under the coil. Like that. And just loosen it up. Let the magnet pull the coil in. Like that. And then just snug up these bolts. You don't have to make them too tight. They do strip out pretty easily. Then rotate the flywheel at least one full revolution. Make sure there's no rubbing. In this case, we're fine. I use this hideous green recoil for now. I do have a nicer one, but it's in storage. So we'll just make do with this for now. And if it runs, I'll make a trip. I'm going to take a quick look in the carb that came on this machine. Although I don't plan on using it today, it's something I might use in the future. And I don't think this carb was ever actually used. This is a new carb, and I'm hoping it's not ruined by the fuel in that tank. But I do see some stuff coming out. Not much. It is wet. And I'm hoping it didn't trash the carb. Yeah, let me get a socket for that. Nothing came out. That's a good sign. And the bolt, it's not rusted or corroded. And this carb, it survived. It got just a little bit of stuff from that tank in it, but not enough to ruin the carb. So that's a good thing. I'll set that one aside and use it on a different day. These are the two carbs I have to choose from with the proper choke. These both came from 420cc Honda clones. They were attached to a Predator generator. And this one is also 420cc. So I think either of these should run the engine well, but the condition is unknown. So let's take a quick peek in this one. Yeah, there's a little O-ring right there that's needed, or else it's going to leak through the fuel solenoid. Ball nut looks nice and clean. The carb looks to be in great shape. So yeah, we'll give this one a go. We'll use this insulator instead. It's just like the other one, but there's no vacuum port. Yeah, usually the spark plug wire, it's held on by these clips right here, and then it makes the turn to the plug. In this case, I think I'm going to leave it. This blower housing is going to pinch the line if I do that. can see why the other carb, the fuel solenoid, was not connected. This generator has no wiring to accommodate this, and it doesn't actually matter. This is only used at shutdown to prevent the engine from backfiring and flooding. And most other times, like when the engine's off and when it's running, the resting position is open. It allows fuel to flow. And it's not until you shut the switch off that this fire is closed, and it only stays closed until the engine spins down and the generator loses power. Going to leave the airbox off for testing, but I think we're almost there. We just need the spark plug, check the oil, add a little fuel, see what happens. I believe the correct part for this is a BP6ES, an NGK, which this is not. It is a clone. It's brand new, and it's a clone of the right plug. So let's give this a go. Just going to back off the spring tension a bit. This screw is driven most of the way in. That's what controls the tension on the governor arm and the top speed of the engine. So I'd rather start conservative and have the engine run more on the slow side. And last but not least, got to check the oil. Yeah, plenty of oil. Needs to be changed for sure. So let's test it like this, and if it runs, we'll treat it with some new oil. Just going to put a bit of fuel in. We'll fill the bowl up. That'll let it run long enough to hear the engine, make sure it sounds good, that the carburetor's running the engine well, and see if this thing's making any power. too bad. It started first pull, the carb's running the engine well, and the engine sounds good. Not to mention we have power. We were at 123 volts. The engine speed was slow though, so I brought it up closer to 61 Hertz. And yeah, everything is doing well. The core of this machine is functioning as it should. And I'm kind of second guessing my plan here. Originally, the parts from this were going to save another, potentially 2 other generators. Those generators, they're only rated at 5,500 watts and they do not have electric start. So I think this one would be the better one to save. And since it's running so well, I think that's what I'm going to try to do. So in order to get this closer to where it needs to be, we do need a recoil that is not lime green. We need a better handle, better wheels, probably better feet. This whole thing was moving all around. And more importantly, I need to figure out what to do about that. So let's start with the easy stuff. And yeah, that'll give me some time to think about that problem. I think it's already earned its oil change. So I'm going to drain the oil out. And once it is all out, I'm actually going to stand the generator up on its side and cut off that metal tubing. These technically, they're not hurting anything by leaving them. And if we didn't already have the correct brackets, I would just leave them in place and add maybe a rubber pad to keep it from bouncing around. But in this case, we do have both the proper brackets. We just need to add that rubber pad and the OEM ones will be complete. came out pretty well. Not perfect. I did break a piece off right there, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. Anyway, as far as the rubber feet go, I have a bin of rubber feet from generators that did not make it, and I think something like this would go pretty well. So we'll give a set of these a go. Made a trip to the storage locker and came up with this Generac starter recoil. So let's get this green one off and put something a little bit better on. Guess while we're here, we'll fix this too. This handle, it's not the proper part. Proper part is actually discontinued. I do have another handle that I think will fit better. The issue with this one is that it just doesn't go down all the way. And that's due to the fact that it's too narrow. So I actually mounted it improperly. I need a handle that's a little bit wider that fits on the outside. And I think I have just that. Let's get some oil back in here before I do something stupid, like try to start it. Let's just check the battery, see where it's at. I'm almost 100% certain it's shot. And yeah, we're at 1.6 volts. So that battery, I'm sure, is severely sulfated and needs to be replaced. So let's get that out. Well, I suppose we should test the electric start before ordering a new battery. Anyway, this one, it is brand new. It is not the correct battery for this generator. It will not fit in the spot, but we can use it to crank the engine and just see if everything is working properly. Perfect. far as the wheels go, these are the correct size, diameter, as well as the shaft going through. The issue is these wheels, the hubs are really thin plastic, and every time I roll around, I see the hub flexing and bending, so they're not going to last long. They're not rated for this weight. So I do have a set of these Harbor Freight wheels. They are the correct diameter. The issue is the bore here. It's 5/8, which is a common size. This generator expects a 1/2 inch. So I have ordered a couple bushings to convert this down to a 1/2 inch. They'll be here in a few days. So we're going to have to hold off on that for now. I was about to throw the coil out. And then I thought, let's take a look. Let's see how they join this together. I'm not expecting it to be a great combination. I can see already a problem. That's not where they joined it. I think the wire is just broken. Interesting. It actually looks like they slit the cable on purpose. Okay. Looks like they just cut the original wire right there. They stripped it back, twisted it together, and got pretty creative by just slicing this and putting it over the wire. So yeah, it probably worked. You know, but these ignition coils, they're not that expensive. So I wouldn't even bother doing something like this, but in a pinch, I guess it could work. I think it's time to deal with this tank. So regardless of what I decide, it needs to be drained out and recycled what's in here. I'm not really sure how to recycle it though. I wouldn't call it oil, wouldn't call it fuel. Paint is a better description, at least from the smell. I guess let's see what it looks like. I just don't understand how a tank can get like this. There's a lot of rust in here, I'd say. Actually, this is mostly water. I mean, there is a little bit of old fuel floating on the top, and the smell doesn't really match. It does not smell like old fuel, doesn't smell like fresh fuel, definitely smells like paint. As far as the tank itself goes, it's not great. I would say it could be made usable again, though. I mean, these Generac tanks, it's a very heavy gauge metal. I'd say it's unlikely to spring a leak. My concern, though, is not so much the bottom of the tank, but what's going on the top. I mean, the top of this cap looks terrible. I'm sure the rest of the top looks very similar. We need a new fuel gauge, a new rollover valve, and cleaning the top will be difficult. No matter what I use, whether it's Evaporust or some sort of acid to actually clean the top, I'd have to flip this upside down, and most likely we're just going to leak whatever solution out and just make a complete mess. And I actually have another tank. It's a metal tank. It's for a Honda or a Honda clone, and it's not an exact replacement, but I think it'll be a lot easier to get that tank to fit than trying to clean this one up. So let me show you the tank I have. I wouldn't say it's a good match. It's an easy fix though. A $5 can of spray paint will paint it up black. It'll look a lot like it belongs on this generator. It's a very good fit lengthwise. Widthwise, not quite so lucky. The rail that it's sitting on ends right about there, and it's like that on both sides. So that is an issue. I can't use the existing mounting locations because there's nothing underneath it to mount to. And drilling a hole a little bit closer, I might be able to get a little bit of this rail, but it's not going to be secured very well. So I think I have an answer for that, and that is a piece of angle iron, or in my case, angle aluminum, because that's what I have. You know, I can run a rail from right to left. This piece is too short, so we'll get some longer stuff and cut it to size. Just rivet it on each side to hold it still, and then that'll give us some material to drill into and secure the tank with a bolt on each of the four corners. And more importantly, the tank, it looks like brand new inside. There is no dirt, no debris, no rust. So I think that will be a lot easier to deal with than something like this. So let me get this mess out of the way. We'll get this to fit the way that it should, and then we can finish it up. I've got everything I need to make this thing 100%. Pretty lucky that this rail fits in just like that. And it's like that on both sides. So I think all I need to do is measure the distance from rail to rail, subtract maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/3 of an inch in total, cut it at that length. We'll make 2 of those pieces, and that should be it. We'll just attach it. Total length is 19 3/4. I'm going to back this up a bit. I think closer to 19 inches would be a safe number to cut it to. So yeah, we'll cut one piece at 19 inches, and if it looks good on both sides, we'll cut another. I think that should do. There's plenty of material overlap here, so we can rivet or screw this angle aluminum into the existing rail on both sides and not have any issues. So let's cut up another one just like this. It came out pretty much the way I envisioned it. It fits right in there. It's more or less self-supporting. So I'm going to mock things up. I want to drill all the holes out and just get the alignment right. I don't want to attach anything permanent yet because I do need to paint the tank and the rails. It fits in there quite well. I've put all the fasteners in. They are just loose. Don't want to tighten anything down until I get it painted black. Really just wanted to see that everything is going to work out. And all the fasteners dropped in. The tank is nice and centered. And even with everything loose, you know, it's in here really good. So I don't think we're going to have any issues with the tank or those rails. So I'm just going to get them back out and we'll paint them up black. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I think this would be a good time just to clean this up, get all the dirt off, put the new wheels, battery, and valve cover gasket in place. think I'm going to skip ahead and get the battery installed while the wheel's off, just a little bit easier. Hopefully it fits in here. I didn't actually measure it, but based it on past experience. And it seems like it's a good fit. Let's just get the other piece and see that it clears. Yeah, that's going to be perfect. When reconnecting a battery, always connect the positive first. And when disconnecting a battery, the negative should come off first. That should be cleaned up a bit. And back to the wheel. We got the bushings, so I'm just going to put a little grease on it. And I also had to get a longer bolt. The one that was on there was only 4 inches. With this new hub, we need 4.5. That one wasn't even tight. You can see on the old wheel where it was bending and flexing. So yeah, definitely a little underrated to use on a generator. So we're pretty much done. Now we're done. Probably could have left good enough alone. It wasn't leaking, at least in the short test I did. And putting a new one on is not a big deal, but right here, it's nearly impossible to clean the surface without getting the heat shield off. So I might have to do that. But let's see if we can avoid it. No, it's really baked on by the exhaust. I find utility blades work better than razor blades. Razor blades are really thin and they tend to flex, but utility blades don't really flex, and you're less likely to dig into the aluminum. Of course, a carbide scraper would work even better, in theory. Need to get one of those. Finding RTV in here, which actually is fine to use. I did not need to buy a new gasket. RTV for a valve cover is perfectly acceptable. Just makes it a bit of a mess anytime you have to adjust the valves. So that gasket may have been ripped long before I got to it. This is the Generac part number if you're looking for the same. And I believe it's the same valve cover gasket you'd find on most Honda clones with this Hemi head setup. I'm sure there's a torque spec on this. I don't know it. I think 60 inch-pounds is a good place to start. If it leaks, you can always tighten it. Just cleaning out what remains of a mud dauber nest. This is where the tank connects to the airbox. It's actually not a vented cap, so all the fumes go down and in theory get recirculated in the engine if the engine's running. But I find these get clogged up quite a bit by mud dauber nests, which is what happened here. And if the tank can't breathe, it's going to either build pressure and push past the needle and seat and flood the engine out, or it's going to form a vacuum in that tank and nothing is going to go into that carb. I think that's got it. The paint isn't completely cured, but I can get it installed if I'm careful. Came out pretty well, actually. Maybe a little too well. Doesn't have that faded look, and it's a little too shiny for this machine. So pretty much ready to go. I've got the test tank hooked up and 6,000 watts of load on standby. So the plan is just to get the engine started. We'll let it warm up a bit. While it's doing that, we'll double check the voltage, the harmonic distortion, and take a look at the sine wave. And then I'll add 3,000 watts. We'll check the meters again, make sure everything is good. And then I'll bring it up to 6,000 watts and see how it does. All right, not too bad. I mean, for a parts machine that only cost $75, it's running quite well. It started without issue. The voltage was good at about 122 volts. The speed was a little slow, so I brought that up closer to 61.5 Hertz. And then we checked the THD. It was about 4 or 5% without a load. We brought it up to 3,000 watts. Things did just fine. It held at 60 Hertz. 123 volts, and the THD jumped quite a bit to 16%, and then we brought it to 6,000 watts, and again it did just fine. THD remained pretty stable, only increasing to 17%, and the voltage held, I think, at about 123 volts, and it was at 58.5 Hertz. So yeah, not too bad for a machine that was supposed to be a parts machine with a bad engine. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.